Can a US firm hire Canadian interns without payroll? The appeal of simple intern arrangements. From a US firm's point of view, hiring Canadian interns without setting up payroll sounds convenient. Maybe the idea is to pay a stipend out of US accounts, call it an educational experience, and avoid registrations and deductions entirely. The problem is that Canadian law does not see intern as a magic category that bypasses employment rules. In many cases, interns are treated as employees and must be paid, protected, and reported like any other worker. So, the real question is not, can we skip payroll because they are interns? But, are these interns legally employees under Canadian rules? In most practical setups, the answer leans heavily toward yes. Interns versus employees in Canadian law. Canadian employment standards legislation focuses on the substance of the relationship. Is someone performing work for you under your control for your benefit? If so, there is a strong chance they are considered an employee. Calling them an intern or putting them on a fixed term arrangement does not change that. Employees are usually entitled to minimum wage, vacation pay, statutory protections, and in many contexts, inclusion in payroll for tax and social contributions. There are narrow exceptions for certain unpaid training or educational placements that meet specific criteria, often tied to formal academic programs. Those exceptions are not a general license to run unpaid or off-the-books internships. If your intern is doing real work that benefits your business, especially outside a school-supervised program, the safer assumption is that they are an employee. Paid interns and payroll obligations. If you pay an intern in Canada, whether hourly or with a stipend, that pay is typically employment income. Once you are paying employment income for work performed in Canada, the normal payroll obligations kick in. Registration as an employer, withholding income tax and social contributions where applicable, and issuing year-end slips. From that point of view, a paid intern is not fundamentally different from a junior employee on a fixed-term contract. The label might reflect seniority and expectations, but the tax system cares about the fact that work is performed and income is earned in Canada. Unpaid interns and legal risks. Unpaid internships carry their own dangers. In many provinces, unpaid internships are only legal in very narrow circumstances, such as when the training meets strict criteria and the intern is not performing work that would otherwise be done by a paid employee. If your unpaid interns are filling real roles in your business, you risk being found in breach of minimum wage laws and other employment standards. For a foreign employer, the reputational and legal hit of running unpaid or off-payroll internships is amplified. It is one thing to misunderstand local norms in your home country. It is another to ignore them in a market you are just entering. Stipends, honoraria, and other labels. Some firms try to sidestep payroll by paying interns a stipend or honorarium and treating it as something separate from wages. Canadian authorities, however, look at what the payment is for. If the stipend is tied to hours worked, to deliverables, or to continued participation, it will likely be treated as employment income. At that point, payroll rules apply regardless of creative wording in the offer letter. If the payment is truly occasional, not tied to work, and more like a grant, the analysis can differ, but that is rare in business internships. Cross-border practicalities. Even if you tried to keep Canadian interns entirely on a US payroll or expense system, Canadian tax rules still apply to work performed in Canada. Interns living and working in Canada owe Canadian tax on that income. If you do not withhold through payroll, you shift the entire tax burden and compliance work onto them, and you still carry risk as an employer that should have registered. For a US firm, that means the cleanest approach is usually the simplest. If interns are doing real work in Canada, treat them as employees for payroll purposes and build them into your Canadian employer setup. Final thoughts. A US firm cannot safely assume it can hire Canadian interns without payroll just because the role is called an internship. In most real-world scenarios, interns who perform work for your benefit in Canada are employees in the eyes of the law. That means pay, payroll deductions, and year-end reporting. Unpaid or off-the-books arrangements are risky and often illegal outside narrow academic programs. If you want to build a Canadian intern program that is genuinely compliant and still practical, you can explore more detailed, plain language guidance at www.theaccountingandtax.com. If you require assistance with Canadian tax matters, our team is ready to provide reliable professional support. Please contact us at 416-283-8774 or visit theaccountingandtax.com for more information. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.